to see everybody here. Hello.
Hello. Got to find a good angle here.
Yeah, it's all about the angles.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Angles and lighting.
Definitely. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I am so excited to actually talk to you face to face. I know we've been on video calls before and I've never gotten to actually see you.
Yes, here I am.
So like magic. So you were a requested guest. So you're super famous. So, I was kind of looking through all of your stuff before this, and I was so excited to see you are from Wisconsin originally.
I am, yes, Wisconsin, which is very
That's
rare
so awesome.
in the color guard world, I think, coming from Wisconsin.
Exactly, which is kind of funny because there's so many drum corps that are from Wisconsin, like past ones and current ones.
And
there's been so many
old winter guards that were like the greats back in the 90s and the 80s, and now there's very few winter guards in the state in general. So
exactly, it's so crazy how much it's all changed.
Yeah, it's.
What do you think kind of spurred that?
Well, I think a lot of the drum corps don't really practice in Wisconsin now. They all practice I think most of the Wisconsin groups practice in Indy, and I think just like the powerhouse that is Indianapolis for the performing arts. For Wisconsin, I think it is very hard for them to find funding in schools to have a winter guard. And I know that we all know Texas gets paid the big bucks, and the southern states more so than maybe us in the north for color guard specifically. But I mean, in the northern states and where it's not so popular, like Wisconsin, I was making very, very small paychecks and still doing the work of everything. So I think it's hard to find educators in Wisconsin because it's just not very popular. And the educators that there are don't necessarily get to make very much because the schools don't have any money to provide for the color guard. My marching band was 85 people, and that was a pretty good sized marching band. I mean, there's the marching bands that are 20 people, 40 people, and it's more common,
right,
that have the old uniforms and the old instruments and the old fiberglass flagpoles that are hard to spin, and they just not as up to date. So it was a big surprise when I moved to Ohio as well. We even had
I'm sure that was just a different world.
Yeah, our winter guard tarps when I did winter guard, and I marched in Independent A for, I think, 2005 to 2011. So a really long time. I marched in Independent A class because my high school didn't have a winter guard. And we would paint our floors and we would duct tape billboards together. That was our winter guard tarp, which I was I thought that was just normal, so.
It seems like it. When you're coming from a small school, I came from a small school myself too, and I didn't get to march independent guard until I was in college, but that was the same sort of thing. We were duct taping our tarps together. We were just spinning our flagpoles. If you broke a flagpole, one of those fiberglass flagpoles, look out. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the slivers.
That was a mess.
The slivers.
Yes.
I feel you. I spun those too. I spun flags with no weights. And then I got to drum corps and I was like, why? I mean, I got it because flags obviously just come out of your hands way easier and don't move around in the wind. But
right.
I had never really done as many of the crazy 45 tosses once I got to drum corps, and I was like, oh, I don't know how to throw a flag. I don't know how to throw a flag. And I was a weapon.
Well, then you start getting those arm muscles, and you're like, where did this come from? So we have a question, and this kind of goes along with how I wanted to do this, is basically what made you get into color guard? And I'm thinking way back in Wisconsin, young Heather, so sweet and innocent, doesn't even know anything about color guard. Where'd you come from?
Young Heather did a lot. Young Heather, I joined baton twirling, and probably a good amount of people know that because I post it on Instagram sometimes, and it's just what I loved before color guard. I did twirling from 3 years old. I saw it in a parade, and they were an Irish drum and baton corps is what they had. So they had live music, which is pretty rare. And I wanted to be a little green thing because they were wearing green. So I twirled baton for years and years. And I thought my dream was to be like a Big Ten feature twirler. That was like what I was going towards because I was just super competitive in that. I became super competitive at the age of 6. And then I did rhythmic gymnastics and randomly, oh, I love the little waves. Hello. Randomly, I got asked by my babysitter from like 3rd and 4th grade, just like the house I would go to when my mom was still at work. And I would just do homework there and they'd feed me a snack and it was great. And I would go, because I was the only child, so I'd go to her house. She calls me out of the blue. She's like, hey, I know you do twirling. We have a color guard spot and we were wondering if you were interested in it. I actually went to the other high school in the district. There's 2 high schools in the city, and I was an 8th grader. And because I was an 8th grader, I could go participate in the marching band. And because my high school didn't have a competitive marching band, they just like performed at football games and stuff. So I just went to the crosstown rivals marching band and joined the marching band in 8th grade.
Traitor.
Yeah, I was a traitor. I would twirl for my high school, and then I would do color guard for the other high school. So like we would have 4th of July parades and I'd march with both marching bands, which was just funny. It was just weird. So then I marched a regional A-class color guard that year as my 8th grade year. And then I did 4 more years in the high school. That's when I joined the independent A guard. And then we went to WGI in 2005. It was my first WGI. I was like 14 years old and I saw Pride 2005 and I was just like enamored.
Such a good year.
That was like my absolute favorite Pride show of all time, and I was like instantly more interested in doing color guard and winter guard than baton twirling, and also DCI. For a long time I didn't want to do DCI. I didn't like being outside. I'm allergic to bees.
I know
I don't
a lot
like the wind,
of winter guard
the sun.
people like that.
I'm not an outdoor friendly. I'm like a cat. I like to be inside. I like the fall. But then I went to DCI in 2008, and I just grew up watching DCI. My family loved it. I just didn't think I had interest in it. So in 2008 I went, and then I ended up started marching in 2010. So it was a long journey of like splitting my time between all these sports and splitting my time specifically between baton twirling and color guard, because until I was 17, I did do both. So some days I would like be at a baton twirling competition, but the high school was like competing at some local Saturday show. So I would like go to the high school, perform with the color guard, come back, or I would go like miss my beginning of my homecoming dance to perform with the other high school marching band to then go to homecoming, because I don't know, I was like, I'm on the team, so I'm not going to miss the performance, right? You know? So I just instantly kind of fell in love with like color guard being a team aspect, and baton twirling for the most part competitively there is team opportunities, but so much of it is also individual, and I love that. And but it's also like practice is more enjoyable when you're doing it with other people and you're around other people, and you get to like learn new things. And obviously baton twirling really makes it easy to like jump on into color guard. You just gotta learn
the technique baseline is already there.
Yeah, you have good hand-eye coordination. But it was definitely lucky that I like went into spinning with kids, because where I marched was actually with a good amount of drum corps kids. There was like 3-4 people that had marched at Scouts or Cavaliers or Phantom, and I was lucky that I got exposed to those people when I was like 13, 14, and I understood what like somebody from the DCI realm looked like and what they practiced.
That gives you a whole different perspective on life, being able to see that from a young age versus like these kids, I say kids, these like 17, 18-year-olds who are just getting into it at that age and had never been around it before.
Yeah,
it's so different when you get exposed to it early.
Definitely. Yes, and just getting to practice with them and understand like just what it meant to spin like a big kid, you know, because you're just spinning your high school marching band, and then all of a sudden you're at WGI. And what was really cool my first year at WGI was that our prelims was at UD for Independent A randomly. Like we got,
Oh,
and that's
nice.
in '05. That was my first year in Independent A. I was young, but yeah, our prelims was in UD. So my first WGI performance was in UD. It was awesome. And then other
Oh, that's
years it
so
was
awesome.
like at the conference center and the Cintas and the smaller arenas, but I performed at all of them. Yeah.
That's so good. So then how, okay, we have another question here. I want to know how, since you were saying, you got started in the drum corps community because you were exposed to it so young. What about these students? Like I have a question here. How do you get someone started into the drum corps community? I actually know this is one of my students who asked this. They haven't had any exposure really to drum corps people aside from myself, and I'm far removed from when I marched. I did march Blue Stars in Wisconsin, which is why I'm like, oh, Wisconsin. um, but how do you get somebody started in the drum corps community when they don't have all those connections and all that exposure? We're very, very secluded where we live at.
Yeah. And I think that's like the hardest part about doing drum corps anywhere is because most times, even if you think you know people in the drum corps community, you're pretty much going to those camps by yourself, which is just like traveling by yourself
Right.
and getting picked up in a shuttle by yourself. And it's like, even as a staff member, it's still stressful. I'm like, where are you?
Yes.
I'm at this. Am I even in the right terminal? Like all the crazy stuff. But I think that using social media and Instagram, utilizing like those videos that people post, like whoever, you could find Boston videos on my page. You can find Blue Devil videos, places, Blue Stars, Blue Knights, Madison, anyone under the sun, really, I think can find like color guard videos on social media. And that would be a great place to start. And that's what I used to do. It's just like learn their choreography because that's a good first exposure of like, what is drum corps? How hard is it? Can I learn it? Is it going to make me mad and get me frustrated? Like just learning new things when you don't have the access to it and utilizing like all these virtual programs now that are coming out. Because I'm like spending hours in the gym doing videos for virtual marching band. And it's just like
Yes.
a whole inclusive like curriculum of all this stuff that I get to do that I've never gotten to do before. So I think reaching out to people too, like whether it be other people that are already in drum corps or even just someone else that's like in an independent A group like you have to start making friends because then you're going to feel more bold to do things if you have someone that like maybe is trying out somewhere else too. There's so many people right now in limbo of like, when is drum corps? When is the next season? Are we having
Right.
WGI? What's going on? And I get that. And it's hard to stay positive and motivated, but I think you got to know if you're like passionate once it comes back, you don't want to be worse. So you might as well start involving yourself in these things. And so many groups are starting to release training programs and virtual marching band and
Yep.
Austin released something and Blue Coats released something and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other things available. I think it's about reaching out, even contacting like staff members. The worst they can do is not answer. So, no one's ever going to be mean, but I think that you got to be brave to just shout out and try.
Yeah, just put yourself out there. So what is this? So you're talking about doing stuff for virtual marching band, and I know you did the choreography for virtual drum corps over the summer. How do you like that, and how is that feeling compared to actually getting to teach in person?
Ugh, it is so hard. It is so hard. I love it. I think I'm really honored that I got asked to do it. It was definitely something that they just called and asked if I wanted to do it. And I was like, yeah, of course I do. I'm literally sitting at home in front of my TV in Wisconsin. I went home for like 10 weeks in the beginning of the pandemic. I went home and I just like, and I had a bunch of family stuff and it was great to be home, but I definitely was just like sitting there. And then I got this opportunity and I didn't know any of the people that I was going to work with. Um, but like now we're doing marching band. We're on our second season. I do the choreography full out. I do all of it. So I offer like dance for A and open and world class and rifle and flag, saber stuff. And we even added baton twirling for marching band, which is funny. I'm
Ooh.
like ripping out the old skills. But I also do like breakdown videos and it just takes up a good amount of my time. But I also am super thankful for that opportunity because I've just learned how to communicate virtually so much better, how to make a video, how to label this video, how to like really communicate with the students of, because this is our life right now. It's virtual. Like